Hello everyone, welcome to Code with Maro. This is Ogenema Afenova, and today we're going to be looking at for loops, the regular for loops. Now, I was scrolling through Twitter the other day and I saw a tweet from a friend of mine who was suggesting something to someone else on Twitter. The person was complaining that he was unable to go to the gym and so he was losing some of the gains he already had. And then my friend suggested, okay, if you have 15 minutes to spare, do 20 squats, right? So start with 20 squats, and then when you're done with the 20, do one push-up. Go again, do 19 squats. When you're done, do 2 push-ups. Go again, do. So I was thinking at the end, what number of push-ups would the person have done? So the idea came that I should do an algorithm test with it. So that's what we're going to be doing today to learn our for loop, right? So we'll be calling it squats, right? Squats, that's going to be squat counter would be our method name. And then we're going to create this method now out here, squat counter. Now the squat counter is going to take an input, right, so that the user can put whatever number of push-ups or squats he wants to start from, right? So we're going to take an integer and we'll call that squats. All right, so we're going to impute something there. Okay, we're going to start from 20 like we said, so that's 20 for that. And then now we're going to write a for loop, right, that checks. First we have a variable. Now this is how a syntax of a regular for loop takes a variable, usually an integer, right? And we're going to equate this to 20 as well. And then after that, it checks to see if the variable, this will be the condition now, right? The condition that we're checking the variable against. So this is our variable. We're saying I is equal to 20, and now we're checking is I greater than 0. If it is, then reduce I, right? So this loop is saying that for every time that I remains greater than 0, I will be reduced, right, until it gets to 0. So once it gets to 0, once I gets to 0, the loop is going to stop. So the first thing we're going to look at, okay, how do we determine how many squats the user is going to do at the end of the whole game? So right, we check, right? So let's print I first to see. Print I. Now that will tell us how many number of squats probably the person will be doing at each time to check if we are going to actually have something running here. So dot squats dot dot. Okay, so it prints and you see it actually follows what we said. So it starts with 20, goes to 19, 18, 17, and then down to 1. So once the person does the last one, he can stop, right? So now we want to know what will be the total sum of all these squats when the user is done. That's the next step we're going to take now. So first thing is, since the user is starting from 20 squats or whatever number of squats, we want to know, okay, how many squats will the person do? We'll start incrementing, right? So after the first 2 times, how many squats will the person have finished doing? So first of all, we want to ensure that okay, to start that, we'll have to equate squats now. So squats will be assigned to squats plus I, because our for loop right now only printed the values of I, right? So we want to print the values of the squats plus the value of I at each point in time. So we're going to print out squats when the user is done, right? So we save and then we run. We run this. All right. You see, so the first time it tells us the user does 40 squats, but that is not correct, is it? Because the user only does 20 squats the first time, not 40. So the reason why this is happening, why we're having 40 here, is because we're saying squats now will be assigned to squats plus the value of I. Meanwhile, the first value of I is going to be 20. Second value of I is going to be 19. So that's why from the second value, we see that the addition makes sense. But the first time, it doesn't make sense. So we would need to add an if statement that prevents our quotes from adding itself to the value of I when I is still 20. So we want the addition to start from only the second iteration, right? So we'll go, if this is the case, we'll say squats will be assigned to squats. So the value of squats is going to remain the same if the value of I is 20, or if it's the same as the value of squats, right? So yes, here now we'll say else squats will be assigned to this, right? And then we do this and we'll print the last value here and the first value is going to change, right? So we'll print this now. We'll run this. And you see, so after the first attempt, the user does 20 squats, then 39 after adding the next 19, then adding 18 makes it 57, and so on till he does the very last one, which is 200, makes it 210. So you see from 207, add 2 there, it gives you 209, add 1 here, it gives you 210. So we've been able to count how many squats the user is going to complete by the time the challenge is done. So starting from 20 squats, and then counting down till 1 squat will be a total of 210 squats. Now, but you see, we're printing every single step of the way. What if we want to print only when the user is done with all squats? So we just bring this out, right, and paste it out here. So this means that the printing statement would only be executed when the for loop has been completed, right? So when all iterations are complete, that is when we'll get here. So if we run this now, and you see it's done. It completes every iteration before printing out for us, and just tells us the total number of squats is this. So we could make this a little more pretty and say total number of squats is the $ and squats. And if you save this and run, it's going to print out the exact same thing, but with this new addition we just brought in. So you see, the total number of squats is 210. So that's how you use a for loop to run a simple iteration for something like this. So we could also decide to change this, right, and make this 10 squats, and then change this to 10 as well. So we say if the value is equal to this, and then that changes, right? So for us to be able to determine, for the user on his own to be able to tell, okay, this is number I'm putting, because if we put 10 here now, right? We put 10 here and run this same code, it's going to give us something different, because we still have I as 20. So we need to add an initial value parameter for the user to add. So we're going to do that now, right? So it tells us it's 200 because it still does 20 iterations. So we're going to add an initial value now here. So let's say int initial value, and then this is going to, everything here will become initial value as well, right? And then we'll have to add an initial value here. So if we add an initial value of 10 here, you see that when we run this, it's going to give us a calculation for 10. So it tells us that this is going to start from 10 and then run the loop 10 times. And when it's done, it's going to print out an answer for us and tell us the total number of squats is 55. Now, if we change this back to 20, it's going to give us the same answer we had before. So this way, you can allow your user control all the inputs and then the output to be calculated from the user's inputs. So you don't have to do anything else. So you see, total number of squats is 210. And that is how you use a for loop to solve a simple algorithm problem. So I'm going to type out the algorithm question in the description below. Thank you very much for staying tuned till the very end. If you enjoyed this video and you learned something, please like and subscribe and also share. Hit the bell to be notified whenever I drop new videos. Thank you very much.